What's up, everybody? So last week it was Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, the WWDC. It's a conference where Apple usually announces their latest software developments and sometimes their hardware developments as well. And so this week they have announced their latest silicon chipset, the M2. M2 has an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU, and it guarantees 18% more CPU performance and 35% more GPU performance than M1, which is really good. It has a 40% faster neural engine than M1. Neural engine, if you don't remember now, by the way, it is an engine dedicated for machine learning and deep learning workloads, so it's good for people like us. It also has a high-performance media engine that supports multiple playback streams of 4K and 8K video. So simply put, it has more video editing and more video playback performance as well. M2 can be spec'd up to 24 gigabytes of RAM. M1 could only be spec'd up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, so that's like 50% more RAM in the M2 chipset. And now they have announced two devices that are going to come with the M2 chipset, the 13-inch MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So let's talk about the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air has got a complete redesign and it looks exactly like the MacBook Pro 14 and MacBook Pro 16, by the way. And it comes in 4 colors: silver, space gray, the two OG colors of MacBook, and then we have a starlight color and a midnight color. Starlight is more like a skin or a peachy kind of color, and the midnight is more like a matte dark black or dark blue kind of color. It's actually darkest blue that looks like black sometimes, you know, that kind of color. But it's still really good, and I think midnight color is my favorite one among these 4 options. When it comes to the display, now it has a notch as well, just like the MacBook Pro 14 and MacBook Pro 16. But because of the notch, it has thinner bezels, so the display size is actually bigger. It is now a 13.6 inches display, but with the same form factor. And the display has also been improved. It is now brighter. It supports up to 1 billion colors, which is really good for people from the photography and the videography industry, because now you would have a crisp or a better definition of colors, simply put. When it comes to the ports, it has 2 USB-C ports, 1 high impedance audio jack, which is good for people in the audio industry or the music industry. And it also contains a MagSafe port. So yeah, MagSafe is back on the MacBook Air. And it's colored, by the way. So whatever color you will pick for your MacBook Air, you will get the same color on the MagSafe charger, which is aesthetically pleasing if you think about it. Now, when it comes to the trackpad and the keyboard, it has the same old trackpad, which is probably the best trackpad in the industry. And the keyboard is the Magic Keyboard with Touch ID, so that's also really, really nice. Now, when it comes to the webcam, it has a 1080p webcam with better resolution and low light performance. And so this is really good for video calling and video meetings, especially nowadays. All of us are usually having Microsoft Teams meetings or Zoom calls, and so this is really good. Now, when it comes to the battery, it will provide 18 hours of playback time. Plus, this time, MacBook Air supports fast charging as well. So in 30 minutes, it can juice up to 50%, which is really, really dope. Now, all of this has become a bit more expensive. So now the MacBook Air comes at $1,199, which is $1,200. Now, this seems like a really good deal, right? You have a $1,199 or a $1,200 device that has the latest design. It has a top-notch performance, a really good battery time, a really good display, and it is thin and light, so you can just carry it with you. And since it has a really good battery, you don't even need to carry the charger. Now, wait till you hear the 13-inch MacBook Pro that they have announced. It's also going to come with the M2 chipset. It has the same old design, same bezels, no notch, pretty much the same thing as the M1 MacBook Pro. It has the touch bar as well. And the only thing that has changed is now it contains the M2 chipset. This seems like a really bad deal, right? It is $100 more expensive. It is the same old thing. I think this is intentional. Apple is going to kill the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Next year or the next year, we will not have the 13-inch MacBook Pro in the lineup. Why? Because if Apple would still improve the 13-inch MacBook Pro, if they would still introduce the latest design and everything, nobody would buy the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Companies do that when they want their higher-end product to be sold more than their lower-end. They remove the features, they don't upgrade it, or they kill it completely. This, what they have done with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, there is no other justification. They are going to remove the 13-inch MacBook Pro completely. So their latest lineup will be, in the future, the 13-inch device, which will be a MacBook Air, a 14-inch device, which will be a MacBook Pro, and 16-inch, which will be their highest end MacBook Pro. You know, it sucks really because I liked the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It was a really good device for probably 90% of the people. And maybe that's why it had to go, because now there is a clear difference between a 13-inch device and a 14-inch device. You have a MacBook Air, thin and light, fanless, you cannot push it beyond its capabilities. Then you have a 14-inch device if you want to push it a bit more. This is not actually new. Samsung has recently done that, and I made a video before when we had rumors for the S22 Ultra and the Note being gone. I made that video and I said the same thing. Check this video out and see that I made the same assumption, I thought the same thing, and it happened. So mark my words, MacBook Pro 13-inch is also gonna go away. All right, I'll see you next time.